And you are live.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Arts and Public Places Commission meeting on June 28th at 7:08 p.m. We are going to call to order. Joe, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Genevieve.
Here.
Joe here. Carissa.
I know she's here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Barbara.
There.
Cynthia.
Present.
Thank you.
Yep,
And
I'm
then-
here.
Thank you. And then David is not here and Jim is not here yet.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda if there's no questions or concerns, comments on it?
Approve the agenda.
Thank you. Everyone have a chance to look over the minutes from last meeting? Any questions or concerns regarding the minutes? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second? I second.
I'd like to make a motion to open the meeting with a moment of silence in commemoration of the 4th anniversary of June 28th.
Second that motion. Thank you, Cynthia.
Welcome.
We'll begin with old business. Barbara, would you like to give us an update on the Poet Laureate, please?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. So I'm having problems with my phone. A couple of things from Maggie. She had a successful youth open poetry night at Art Farm on June 17th, and she's hoping to have this for adults this summer. She spoke with Eric Evans and also Jenny at Old Fox Books. I don't know if you know her, but she's hoping to get another similar program for adults this summer. And she's also speaking with Eric about possibly getting one of the spots for First Sunday Arts Night. And that'll be great. She could showcase some of the local poets during the summer. So that's it for now.
Thank you, Barbara. Gallery updates are the same as the announcement that I made last month, but it is the Annapolis Police Department is in exhibit at City Hall, the other side of the curb. I took additional pictures today while we were there for the memorial for the Capitol Gazette shooting. And I will post those on Facebook later today. And then also over at Pitt Moyer, we now through July 29th, we have the Abstractly Anything is Possible by artist Joshua Toller. So if you haven't seen either exhibit, please stop in and check them out. They're very fabulous. They're beautiful. The photography was moving again today. It was quite an emotional day. They also unveiled a new piece that's hanging in the gallery wall upstairs at City Hall, and it is the piece of the 5 that we lost by Mark Perea. and it's gorgeous. So again, it's open to the public. You can go upstairs too and see it. So make sure you stop by and see it. It's very moving and beautiful piece that he did. And that's what I have for gallery updates, except for one other notification is that we're working on having a gallery install at City Hall in September to celebrate Hispanic Cultural Month. I'm sorry, my brain is really fried today. I don't have anything on murals at this time. We will be having some presented next month after our new fiscal year budget has been deposited into our account. Cynthia, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you for the floor. I wanted to bring to your attention, there was a really interesting interview on Annapolis with a local poet, Lisa Rowe. She's got a book of poetry out, and it was a really fascinating interview. Her poetry book is called The Sober Poet. But she's gaining a lot of popularity, and they have a cafe. It's called the Sober Cafe. They have poetry readings. If you all can go to Eye on Annapolis, hear this interview podcast. It was really fascinating. But I think this Liza, she's really connecting with the community, and it could be a fantastic public health outreach to reach the community, but also using poetry. So I want to just encourage all the commissioners to check it out.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cynthia. And if people don't know where that Sober Cafe is, it's across from the mall, back off of Industrial Parkway. So I also wanted to mention that Maggie's poem was read today at the memorial service when we laid the wreath at the Guardians Memorial. So that was lovely. Will read it because she could not make it today. I will have her send us a copy to all of us so we can have it. And I'll also post it on the Facebook page. And I will go on then to if nobody has anything else about murals, I will go on to the grant updates. And go ahead, Joe.
Sure. One quick thing on murals. You might have said this at the May meeting because I wasn't there, but the Jason's mural at Chesapeake Lightcraft is finished. I went by there just the other day. Looks really great.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll go get some pictures unless you want to take pictures and send them in.
I can. It's challenging because of the space, but I can try. So on grants, I'm gonna meet next week with Jan, the volunteer that David set me up with. So we're gonna try to just kind of get the ball roll, sort of just see what resources we have in common, what we can think about doing together. I did also just update, you had sent me a Maryland Grants Watch link, and I used to have an account there, and I just updated that and kind of overhauled it to partly in preparation for that meeting as well. So
fabulous. Thank you.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's kind of it, I think.
Anybody else have anything on grants? Okay. Public outreach updates. I didn't have any meetings except for with Laura Gutierrez regarding the planning of the fiesta at City Dock. Those are they're still looking for 2 headliners in August and September to perform before salsa and Zumba. So it'll be Zumba, then salsa carries out the night. So if anybody has any suggestions, feel free to kick them over. And Ismenia is helping us along with Laura to book those performers. And and so we did get the Brazilian drums, and they will be the opening act on July. And then I did send out the email letting everybody know that we had to cancel in June because the Race Across America was coming in, and they used the whole city dock for that event. And Felicia apologizes, but she had to bump us. So now we are July, August, and September for the Fiesta at City Dock, which is great because September is nice and cool, and they can dance all night long. So it'll be good. It'll work out. And they were excited that we didn't have to outright cancel, that we could reschedule. So I do have a scheduled meeting coming up with the Arts Council in Visit Annapolis. I did talk to Brian Callahan today about a few points that we're trying to work together with Visit Annapolis to do some promotion on, such as the pumpkin carving in the fall, work on, as well as Umbrella Sky, which will happen sometime next year. And Inner West Street did submit a bunch of grant requests to me that we will review for next month. So I'll send them out to everybody, and we can take some time to review them and then vote on spending stuff again next month. So, and that's it for my public outreach updates, unless anybody has anything else. Okay. Budget, I do not have a copy of the new budget, but I have been promised that we will have it. David's here, yay. We will have everything all updated and up to date, and with our budget, what it is and everything before our July meeting. So we'll have that to review before our spending votes. And I guess now that we're talking about budget, we can talk about the ordinance. I did see Ellie again today and talk to her, but I've been, as I mentioned in my email, I hope everybody had a chance to read it. I have been in communication with City Hall and with Ellie and legal. I don't know if Ashley is here. I don't see her on here.
What email are you referring to?
I sent out an email in response to Jim's email to us, his first original one. And I sent a link to the ordinance that Ellie was working on. I explained the communications that we had. It went out to everybody at AIPPC. So there was a rumor going around. It was very vicious, and it was not factual, that they were trying to eliminate arts and public places, that they were defunding us, and that is not what is happening. What Ellie is doing is removing that discretionary line in there that says maybe, which we wanted them for years to change to shall for our funding. And it said 1% of 1/10 of the general fund revenue, which during my time, we've never gotten. I am not sure, the commission has been almost 20 years now. So maybe in the beginning, it actually was funded that way, but it's always been, for the past 4 years, it's always been whatever Gavin suggested that they could take from the fund based on the mayor's budget and put in to arts and public places. So now, because the state legislation supersedes the city code based on the hotel tax and gives us from the state legislation 3% every year, Ellie felt the 1% of 1/10 was redundant. So she's striking that out of there. Mike Lyles has agreed to do it. It's been vetted by the legal, and it went through second reader. I did talk to Ashley. Ashley said that nobody conferred with her regarding it, so she wasn't aware of it until after the fact, like most of us were, that Ellie was doing the ordinance. There's no ill will with this. It's just, it's an administrative action, and it doesn't affect our funding. We can still, if for some reason, the city wants us to do something, bigger than what our budget is, before the new fiscal year budget is approved by city council, we can ask for more money through grants, we are always allowed to do that. We can always apply for grants from the city. So if we want to do that yearly, we can do that in addition to the 3% hotel tax. So there is an option to still get more money from the city if we want. We also have our grant subcommittee that will be looking for additional funds, and the Arts Council and Roanoke County Arts Council too will be working side by side with us to see if we qualify for any other funds or grants through them as well.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jim.
First of all, I want to thank you and Sarah Elfreth for fixing the the 3% for us. That was brilliant. So I really appreciate that, Genevieve.
My pleasure.
What I just want to make sure that we get our full allocation, and if we don't spend a part of that allocation, that it continues in our funds.
Yep.
It doesn't revert to the city.
Carries over. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And who keeps track of our funds?
The finance department.
What entity holds them?
So the funds actually come, so we are underneath Recreation and Parks for the city of Annapolis. So in the code, it states though that the finance department controls our funding and our spending. So procurement cuts our checks, and before they cut the checks, they send in the request for payment to the finance department of the city, and then they approve it, and then procurement cuts the checks and mails them out.
Excellent. Now, will we get a periodic report on what the status of our funds are?
Yeah, so every month we are supposed to have a budget report, and it states who's been paid, it shows the checks that were cut.
Excellent.
Yeah, the spending that has come out and what we have currently left to spend. So
excellent. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't really giving up something. I am a little disappointed that the city wants to bail out of supporting us directly out of the budget, but you know, it was always their prerogative. And as you said, whenever they got hungry, they took the money anyway. So it didn't matter. But this is a much better system for us.
I agree. Anybody else have questions about? Go ahead, Cynthia. Unmute yourself, Cynthia, and go ahead. You have the floor.
Is she muted?
Okay, I wanted to respond to some of Jim's questions. This does go back, and if you can get a copy of the original transition report, okay, it was titled Soul of the City. Julia Gibbs and Leah Weiss did a fantastic job on that report. And I would suggest you read it through. We were both, Ellen and I, both former chairs, were on the Soul of the City team with the transition, original transition team. And you can read there. There was obviously a lot of issues about funding, and there was a recommendation list of a multi-pronged approach. One of the approaches was to change the code to say that it would revert from discretionary with the verbiage from may to shall. Okay, that is in the line 2 of the code that you sent out. If you see line 2, it says may, but there was a lot of discussion whether that could be changed and become non-discretionary. So my point is this, and I've discussed this with Rob, my alderman, there's really no point to change the code because there's no obligation to fund. And during the Cohen administration, okay, as you recall back in the year 2008, 2009, you know, when the economy tanked, well, basically they pulled out all of the funds, which were quite substantial, from the arts fund. So that was, obviously a financial crisis. And, you have to think in the future, could there ever be a need where these funds would be needed if there was a structural deficit, which we presently are anticipating. So I suggest that the code not be changed, that just keep it as it is, keep it as discretionary. Please get a copy of that Soul of the City transition report, because another approach that we had discussed besides the code change, the hotel tax, which had been discussed way long time ago, and you can read what Julia and Leah wrote. But that whole plan to ask for the hotel tax to convert back to Annapolis for the Arts Fund. But the third approach on this multi-prong avenue was to write some legislation, which Rob Savage and myself sat down and we did some wordsmithing. That would be to have a corporate donation. So current construction and current like the townhouses, popping up all over, that there would be a corporate donation like the city of Rockville. In other words, we were just going by what Rockville does to get a corporate amount from each development. Okay, so the developments would have to divvy out some arts funds for each project that they have. So I also have that paperwork that Rob Savage and myself, the legislation that we had written up. And obviously when the hotel tax went through, we didn't proceed with it. But I think that it is something we need to be very, very aware of, that, we have to keep the transparency, that right now, the public really deserves to know exactly where these funds are going. The previous hotel tax that went to Visit Annapolis and to the Arts Council of Anne Arundel County, that's a lot of money. It needs to be scrutinized, and we need to really make it a goal to have complete transparency about where these public funds are going. So that brings us up to date.
Thank you, Cynthia. Okay, so a couple comments on what you've mentioned. The sole purpose of honestly reopening this legislation at state level was to add in more regulations, so funds were accounted for based on misuse from a separate entity, obviously not us, because this is the first year that we are getting the 3% hotel tax. We are required to submit a report, just like we do for the city every year. And in that report is always our budget line item that the finance department gives us that shows all of our spending. So we will be continuing to do that as well moving forward. I can't remember what the other point was, but I think we're good.
Well, once again, in previous meetings, and I think if you go back, Jim, you'll see in the minutes in the past, they were a lot more informative for the public. So a citizen of Annapolis could go on the website and click on the minutes and really find out exactly what was going on within the commission. So I think that we do need to really struggle for more transparency. But I remember the last time, it was more in the winter, that Genevieve, you said that the amount from the hotel tax was going to be administered by the Arts Council, because they already have an established process with their granting. I think at the charrette, there was a charrette that you mentioned. And at that charrette that was attended by yourself and Ellen and Sarah, I believe it was discussed that the Arts Council was going to be they already have a process established, a grant process. So because it is a large sum of money, we don't really have a process set up for these large amounts of funds coming into our coffers. So
Okay.
I think
So
well,
that's
you can go
actually-
back on the minutes and you can see exactly what it's.
I can go back on the minutes, certainly, because I never said that, because that's not how it's set up. So how the legislation is set up is that the money comes to the city and the city delegates it out 3% to the Arts Council, 17% to the Visit Annapolis, and now 3% to us as well. It was never going to go through the Arts Council as a grant written to us. I just remembered my other point was that, yes, I did actually discuss with both legal and with Ellie. And actually, I copied all of our city council members that we do not need to change the wording because it does say may be, not shall. And this is still the route that they're choosing to go. So I did try to keep it as is and fully intact. But that is how it's going to work. It comes in and they are held responsible to give us the funds. If we have some concerns that the city isn't going to give us the funds somehow, then that's something we definitely need to talk to finance or the mayor about, and legal as well. But because it is state legislation, it was signed by the governor into law. There's no wiggle room for the city to not fund us based on what the legislation states.
Well, I think Cynthia and I have a little suspicion about that, but I defer to your judgment about that, and I think you're probably absolutely right. But that also depends a lot on the goodwill of the administration and the finance department. I doubt that they would cross sabers with the state. But, you know,
it would be illegal if they did, and then they would have to face the state suing them. So they're not
right.
going to do that.
I think you're right. I think that's true. The more important thing is we have a lot of money that we didn't have before and have only rarely ever been given money. And probably it's a really good thing to have a steady flow. And I would suggest that as we figure out what we're going to do, we remember to keep some of that money from year to year to build a fund that's larger than our spending, so that when a big project comes along, possibly like the Circle project or some other project in the future, we have the money to cover it plus our other responsibilities. I just think I'm always a little dubious when politicians get their nose into finances, because words like boneheaded and simple logic and all of these other things that were used in the press stories, quoted from Ellie and others, and also personal comments from Karma, they kind of acted like we really didn't deserve the money. And I was really disappointed with that. But I don't think that's really a fair characterization of their attitude. I think that they just were responding to what they were wringing their hands about. I don't really quite understand why it was a problem, because as you said, it was may spend. It was never mandatory. It wasn't mandatory in this current wording. But we've spent too much time on this. I think what we really need to do is get down to figuring out the next steps of what we're doing.
Yeah, and just to discuss Karma's comment when she said that's a lot of money for salsa. She was saying it like, ooh, that's a lot of money for salsa, but it was taken out of context. And she did send us an email and she explained what it was. And Karma is actually a champion for us. She was not saying that we didn't deserve that much money. She was on the commission before. She was our secretary. She knows how much work we do, and she's totally in support. And I did speak to her last Wednesday in the morning as well, and she's a supporter of us. So she wasn't trying to say that we didn't deserve that money, just in her defense. Cynthia?
if you are interested, it was during McShane's time as chair when Josh Cohen did need to use the funds from the Arts Fund. So history can repeat itself. And if things get bad enough with the budget and structural deficit, that's why I say if we have a corporate prong that new developments are required to put a certain amount aside for arts or an art project tagged on with their development.
Well, Cynthia, that was done for another project or another program in the city where a percentage of developer money revenue coming to the city was set aside for a purpose. The problem is that that money has dried up because there's very limited large development going on in the city right now. Most of the development you're seeing is rehabs, renovations, build outs. They're really, we had a couple projects on West Street in recent times. And there are a few sites that could be developed, but it's not a reliable stream of money. That was the experience that the city had with that program. I'm not sure that's where we want to tie our wagon to. I just want to make sure that a future Josh Cohen doesn't step in and take the money out of the pot and use it to balance his budget, as opposed to allowing us to maintain our funds or to build up our funds. And trust me, when our funds, if they do accumulate, get significant, they're going to be very vulnerable to pirating, to other needs for the city. Regardless of the state law, they'll go to the state and appeal to have it changed. But, we just have to deal with that as it comes. This is the best situation we've had in a long time. So I'm not so sure tying it to development is the practical solution. I wish it were.
This is Krista. I'd like to just jump in and in support of what Cynthia is saying, in that I remember when Will Rowell was working with us in the beginning of my tenure, when well, not really tenure, but when I first came aboard. And Cynthia, you are correct in that I know Will was trying to look at legislation and push legislation. And of course, you were then becoming chair shortly after that. And Will and I had numerous discussions about this, and he had experienced the success of it. I believe when he lived in California, I think there was something in place with regards to development. So, Cynthia, I agree with you that I think that it is something that is a positive thing. And I do agree with you that when there are some difficulties in the economy, and maybe if we do have that money, we may have to be looking at that again, and hopefully our chair can negotiate that out. So I do agree with the rest of our commission that these are things that we've been up against in the past, and we may look again or be looked at again for that in the future. But I did want to just jump in and support Cynthia on that comment about that did work effectively in other states with regards to arts commissions. So, maybe we can table this for another discussion another time. But I just wanted to jump in and add those remarks.
Thank you, Chris. And like I say, the arts community of Annapolis, these are long-term goals that they have been working toward many, many years. So like I say, the Soul of the City in the transition report has some really great recommendations that you should review. Also, the City of Rockville and their Arts and Culture Commission, I have a copy of their 5-year plan. Really excellent legislation for that foundation of funding that we are now achieving.
Thank you, Cynthia. I know a lot of people don't want our population to grow like Montgomery County. So, but if it did, we'd have more.
The only way is up.
Yeah, that's right. it's going to happen, whether some people want people to come to our city or not, it's happening. So I'm going to move on then to our new business section. And Jim sent us an email regarding the meeting format. So I'm going to open it up for discussion, but I want to lead in basically what I said in the email was that in regards also to something that Cynthia said about transparency with what's happening with arts and public places. So we have these meetings and they are telecasted through the city television, and they are available live, and they're also recorded so everybody can watch it later. We know that in times past when we tried to do technical stuff at Pitt Moyer, it didn't work when we were doing in person. I don't know if the Wi-Fi has been upgraded there or even if the city TV has a capacity to come in and record our in-person meetings, but that is something that we'd have to consider if we were going to, again, have transparency for our meetings moving forward for everybody in order to reference the meetings later. Currently, doing it this way does allow it to be recorded. It's also allowed to be watched live. We're able to have presentations much easier for people to sign on and show us the presentations versus when we tried to do it at Pitt Moyer. Projector didn't work, or we didn't have a cord for the projector, or the Wi-Fi was not working. I remember those days. So there are advantages in addition to the health advantages of, I know there's some COVID concerns still about meeting in person. We are going to continue to have spikes. We can't, as far as I know, we would have to ask legal, but we can't require everybody to have their vaccinations if we go to in person. So, we may have people who are not vaccinated in the room. There always is a potential for spread. These are all things that we have to consider moving forward if we went back to in-person meetings, as well as they are open to the public. So people don't have to sign up to attend. They can just come, just like they can watch us online as well. So many things we would have to consider going back to in-person if that was the route that we decide to do. I will open the floor at this point to other people who would like to discuss it. David, go ahead.
Trying to get off mute. Good afternoon, everyone. I think Cynthia had her hand up first, so I'll go after her.
David, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay.
You have the floor.
And I think, one of the conversations we had prior to this, even before the pandemic, was the ability to do remote meetings like this. And I think it wasn't until the pandemic kicked in that we were actually able to use this technology. But one of the advantages of that is that you're not, if you're not able to attend, if you're traveling or something, having a virtual meeting like this allows you the ability to log in and join the meeting, even if you're not, in your home, if you're traveling on vacation, with business, what have you. So that was one of the, and I'm just like, and I guess I was hoping Ashley was on the call because I was asking her, I remember asking her if we decide to go to in-person, but we still have the option of doing a remote login. And I think there was some issue with that as well in terms of having to be present to vote. And I don't know if that legal aspect of it has changed over, the last couple of months since we've all been a year or so since we've all been remote. But that's, so one of the advantages, also another advantage of being remote is that you're able to log in, even if you're not, happen to be, home or you have to be visiting or out, on work or business. I just wanted to make that point. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Cynthia?
I think right now with the council meeting in person and a lot of the boards and commissions also following suit, I think we should take a vote. I think we need to go back to in person with a mask optional, that if people, want to wear a mask, then that's fine. I'm wholeheartedly in support of that. But I think those hurdles that you mentioned as far as the technology, they are definitely fixable. And I think that we can achieve, the presentations and having the folks come directly to the meeting. I think is a better format. I think it has better potential, to reach the public. They can attend if they want. I think very few people are accessing these meetings virtually. I think we need to go back to the old format, and I propose a motion to return in July to Pitt Moyer.
Do I have a
I would
second?
second the motion.
So Jim, have you been?
Oh, I'm
sworn?
not sure I can vote yet
You
because,
can't. Jim has
Okay.
not been sworn in. Do I have a second?
by the way,
This
when
is
is that going to
Krista.
happen?
It's the floor. Excuse me. Is the floor still open for comments on whether we go back or not?
No, because there was a motion made.
Okay, because I do have something important to add, but okay.
But it wasn't seconded.
It's not seconded yet. So do I have a second?
Okay,
Okay, motion doesn't pass. Go ahead, Krista.
can you guys hear me? I just want to make sure I'm not on mute.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to mention to you that, obviously you all know I work at the National Archives Museum, and we have a system where we are either at low, medium, or high with regards to COVID. Right now we're at medium. However, personally, I have quite a few friends that are connected into CDC and who are in the health field, nurses, researchers, etc. And one in particular has reached out in this past week stating that the two new variants that are out right now are much stronger, and they're looking to work with the new booster to try to have the booster cover these new variants. And so that's in the works right now. With that in mind, another thing that was brought to my attention is that there's a lot of people that have COVID that are not registered officially to state that they have COVID. So they're not letting the officials know. And so, for example, we're at a medium rate right now at the National Archives in Washington, D.C., but many people feel that we're probably at a high rate or close to a higher rate because not everyone is reporting. So with that in mind, I'm wondering if maybe we should be watching what these new variants are doing. I'm hearing that they're stronger than Omicron. And, hopefully there's less hospitalizations and all of that with regards to people that have been vaccinated. But I'm on the fence here. I just wanted to make it officially known. I'm on the fence about whether or not we should go back in person or whether or not we should still do virtual or do some sort of hybrid. So I just wanted to put that out there to everybody and just share that information in case people were not aware.
Thank you, Krista. Joe?
Yeah, I just want to kind of echo what Krista just said. From my own personal recent experience, I just ran an in-person program of 150 people, and there was a COVID outbreak right in the middle of it. And I am not at all confident that we are at a point where in-person is fully safe. Even without Chris's kind of additional context for what that means. And just more broadly, I would say I certainly understand the desire to go back in person. This meeting that I just held was virtual the past 2 years, and everybody wanted to be back in person. And the feedback was, even before people started getting sick, was there were not adequate safety protocols. We're just not in a position right now to guarantee people's health. I also think in the name of kind of public inclusion, I think there are going to be people, if we require them to come to do in-person presentations, who may opt out of looking for funding because they're not comfortable coming to an in-person meeting. So I think there's a little bit of a glitch in the idea that if we just go back in person, that sort of, I think there are limits to kind of what that'll mean for other people's participation, and that concerns me.
And I agree, because
I think that, this is Chris.
Yeah.
Krista, I think it's a good point. Just to tack on to what you said, I think that was Jim that commented. I'm not sure if that was Jim or not. I think it was. The thing that concerns me the most, because I've been in our education space in the museum, is that I can wear my mask all day long, but when the public is coming in and the majority of the public is not masked, and in particular the preschoolers and kindergartners who are not vaccinated, who are coughing and sick, and they seem to be fine, but they're literally passing along the COVID strains. And there are outbreaks in some of the preschools. I know that happened with people that I know about a month ago. There's really nothing you can do about it. In one of our particular spaces, they are requiring, not in the museum, but in the research area, they are requiring appointments. People are masking up. I believe that they are still requiring the public when they come in to do research to have masks on. I don't want to overspeak about, my work, because this is about art in public places. But just as an example of our federal buildings, that, when we get to high status, I believe our protocols right now, and again, this can all change, but our protocols right now are that if we get to high status, then we can have the legal ability to ask people to mask up coming into our spaces. But if we're at low and medium, we do not. And that's really causing some contention among staff and volunteers. We have a lot of volunteers that don't want to come back because we don't have masking in place. So again, Jim, I agree with you that unless the state, the county, or the city starts to go back to enforcing masks, or giving those people who are holding the meetings or holding the events to determine whether or not they want to require the masks, we are at liberty to being there and having people come in that are not masked. So, it's a tough scenario. Another thing to add about this variant, since we're on the subject, is that some people are getting sick for 2 or 3 weeks with it. Other people are lasting a month, and others are lasting up to 3 months before they feel normal. Some are not getting their smell back. Some are not getting their taste back. So it's still very, very real. And even though most of us are, at that point, we're like, oh, more COVID, right? The reality is it is still here. And we do want to be responsible to our public, to those who come to our events, and to those who are at our meetings. And so, again, maybe there's a hybrid option. I don't know. But I feel that we're very fortunate to have had Genevieve chairing this, to have the AV help that we've had with Julian and others that have been on hand, making our meetings go so smoothly. So a shout out to them as a thank you. And that's my 2 cents. So, I do think we need to be cautious going forward.
Thank you, Krista. I'd like to mention too that hold on, Jim. 2 of our members, and I'm not going to say who, just recently had COVID. So it's something to keep in mind that it's still going around. And there are many people that I work with that have had COVID. I had a younger coworker who is experiencing some inflammation with his heart due to long COVID. And so he had an experience that was much like a heart attack and was in the hospital. So we just need to keep in mind that it is still a real thing. And regardless, David, did you have something?
Excuse me. I would like to make a comment.
Jim, I know, but his hand was up while
Hey,
Chris.
Jim. No, Jim, go ahead. I did have a comment, but I can wait.
Okay, go ahead,
Yeah,
Jim.
I really wish when you pass the ball around, you give everybody a chance to speak once and then go back over the crowd that wants to speak a second time. All right, enough of that. The most important thing, I think, is we have one attendee at our meeting. We don't have anybody else coming to our meetings.
You don't
Going
see everybody,
online.
Jim. We don't see everybody who's watching online. You would have to go watch you'd have to go.
But I think we should see them. I think we should know who's in the crowd. And when you use this format, we haven't got the technology. yet to see who the people are that have an interest and are watching. So I'm just trying to make the point. I'm not a Trumpite. I don't believe in coercing public meetings and all of that. But my real concern is we lose a lot of human interaction by not being in a room together. And that doesn't mean that we're sitting right next door to each other. I mean, you know, in a room, you can spread out a bit, especially because we're a small commission. And it seems to me that there's, you know, there is clear concern about the various virus issues that are blowing around in the country. But if we're going to be a non-public commission, I just find that really difficult. I find that really difficult.
Go ahead, David.
So yeah, a lot of good points here. And I understand, you know, the necessary, I mean, and I come from a technological group. We rely on technology 24/7, and being in person is definitely, it has its advantages. And I just, you know, to Chris's point, I mean, let's investigate if there's a hybrid option, if that's available. Is it binary? Is it one or the other? To kind of, before we kind of go that rabbit hole and kind of get all wrapped around the axle. Because obviously if those folks who want to get them together in person can do that, then that's cool. And those folks who do not cannot. But I don't know if that option exists. And that's sort of my point I mentioned earlier, that legally, I don't know if you're not there in person, are you allowed to vote? And that's an Ashley question. The other thing is, you know, in terms of, you know, I've been on the commission for a while. I don't recall a time when we've had visitors at our meetings when we're in person. And I'm trying to think back. There's never been a person just sitting in the corner wanted to hear what we had to say. And I'm sure through this, I mean, this is a technical form. There's a way to definitely, I'm sure we can ask the folks in the city of Annapolis to kind of look and see if we've had any attendees, you know, look at our, I mean, it's a website. You have analytics on the website. So I'm sure there's a way to go back and find out if we've had any public participation in our meetings, if we need to do that to kind of put everybody's mind at ease. But like I said, I don't recall anyone ever sitting into our meetings who wasn't presenting. So, I mean,
actually, David, this is Krista. I'm just going to say, Ellen Moyer invited me to the commission with the intent of me joining and being part or volunteering. And so for a short while, I was, you know, volunteering, being on the commission as a volunteer, just not on the commission, but I mean, I was coming to the meetings, but I was invited to come to the meetings because Ellen was, you know, looking to bring me along if I was interested for our ward.
Krista?
That,
yeah. Hold on. I have a hand up too with Barbara if David's done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, go ahead.
Thank you.
Genevieve, can you guys hear me? I agree. Everybody has to. I just want to echo what David said. I mean, we've been on the commission a while, and other than the presenters, we might get someone once in a blue moon who's usually it is just the presenters who have appeared in person. And personally, I've found that having access to people's computers when they're showing presentations, it's nice to actually see the screen. That we know in person sometimes, you know, everything goes to pot because someone doesn't have the right zip drive, or we can't look to our Wi-Fi. So, and also I work in DC as you guys, the Library of Congress, and there are some days where I'm literally getting home at 6:30, and it's nice to get on here and then just, you know, not worry about being frantic about getting physically to PIP in order to be at the meeting on time. And I just find that we should err on the side of caution, right? And like all of you, we've all been able to.
You're breaking up, Barbara.
We're breaking up a little bit.
You know, I would just hate for us to go into this and then all of a sudden a bunch of commissioners to get COVID. That's all I'm saying.
It would be terrible.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. Okay, and I'm going to bring in Mark because he said that he can talk about some of the technical questions that were placed. So go ahead, Mark, you have the floor.
Thanks. So first and foremost, I'm the TV tech with the City of Annapolis TV. I also coordinate all the Zoom meetings for the boards and commissions. We've had a lot of discussions that have gone back and forth. I just want to make it very clear up front that hybrid is not an option. And I'd have a meeting with a few people in person, and someone trying to join via Skype or Zoom. One of the other commissions tried it at Pitt Moyer. It was a complete disaster. And we don't have the equipment set up. There are very expensive facilities called Zoom rooms that can be set up for those hybrid type meetings. Those are usually, well, they're very expensive. We've looked into it. I'm not sure that the money or the will is there to go with that. In answer to your question about how many people are watching, a lot of times people are not watching the actual live stream, but like most people, I prefer to watch stuff when I want to watch it. And we do have analytics, and I can tell you that 11 views were made of the last Art in Public Places Commission meeting. I don't know how exciting that was, but you could have, a handful of people, you could have several hundred that decide to chime in and see what's going on with that. As far as the Wi-Fi in Pitt Moyer, again, we've had discussions about that. There have been discussions about doing a dedicated Wi-Fi network that the general public cannot access, which would make it easier to have some connectivity. Again, though, we don't have the hybrid technology set up, so that kind of makes it a moot point. So, and I'm not sure if you guys have any other technological questions that I could help answer, but I'm happy to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark. Does anybody have any questions for Mark outside of what we already posed? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Genevieve, can I make a motion that we stay virtual and revisit this again in the fall?
Sure. So there's a motion on the floor to stay virtual. Is there, and you said until the fall, is that what you said?
Yeah, or, for the next 6 months or,
just remain virtual.
Quarterly. I'm open to feedback from other commissioners, but
who's
I personally would.
Hold on, Jim. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can make motions at any time. Jim, Chris is making the motion.
Okay, is she a board
I
member?
make a motion that at this time we stay virtual.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jim. Joe.
That was
Thank you, Joe. Let's do a roll call for all those in favor. Say aye.
sure. Genevieve,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Joe, aye. Chrissa,
Aye.
Cynthia,
No.
Barbara,
Do it again, Barbara.
and Jim.
I'm not allowed to vote.
He's not
Oh,
allowed
that's
to
right.
vote. Yeah, he's not in. Poor guy.
So motion passes.
Wants to.
Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you, Chrissa. Thank you, Joe, for taking the role. Okay, let's move on to open discussion then. Do I have anybody who would like to have the floor for open discussion?
I just a question, I guess, with regards to our budget, so we basically get our new budget in July, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
effective. It should be effective July 1st.
Perfect. Okay, just want to confirm that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have copies of the budget?
Yes, yeah. Finance will give us a copy of the new budget, and we'll have that presented to everybody before the next meeting at the end of July.
And do we have a spending plan, or we're not there yet?
No, we generally have been just taking applications for grants. We discussed at one point allocating certain funds for each sort of category that we're allowed to fund. And legal actually recommended that we do not do that because it would keep us in a certain box. So like if we said, well, we only want to give 50,000 to performing arts, 50,000 to visual, so on, then legal's concern was that, there may be a project that goes over that spending that we really want to be part of, but we can't be, and we can't give the funding that we would like to do. So it was recommended that we do not do our budgets that way. If we want to do a particular project and do an RFP and set a budget to that, then that is completely fine, but not to subdivide our budget up per spending what we're going to do per each art.
I'm a little concerned because as people come forward with requests, do we have some plan to how we distribute or how we make decisions other than just vote at a meeting? Because you may end up with only things going on at the city dock, or you may end up with things that are all murals, or, you know, so we really don't have any idea how that might pan out. We just are winging it for now, which is perfectly fine, but it might be very unfair to other art forms or artists and other parts of the city.
Well, there's always the opportunity to vote no, you know, if something is presented and we don't feel it's a good fit for the city or we don't want to fund it, that's always an option. We don't always have to say yes. In the past, it hasn't been an issue. We've always had representation from almost every category for funding arts in the city. So it just hasn't really been an issue prior to. Joe has his hand up. I'm going to let him respond to Jim.
David first.
David
You had
first.
your hand up first.
Oh, he does. I didn't
Pointing
see
like
it.
that way, like
I'm sorry. I know.
But
I know.
you're
It's
over there online.
Brady Bunch here. Okay. go
I
ahead.
guess the question, I know, you know, if we hypothetically, if we did that, is that legally binding? Even if we decided like, and let's kind of say we have $100,000 and want to kind of split it up to kind of even it out. Is that legally binding that we do that? I mean, we have the option of changing that if we see some really cool program comes up that needs $100,000. We want to give all the money there, or do we have to? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so we would have to vote, like if we did the subcategory for the budget and we decided line items, you know, only this much goes to this, only this much goes to performing.
So it'll be a public
visual
record.
arts. So there was a public record and a vote to approve or disapprove that. Now, I would have to double check with Ashley, but I assume that we could go back and change that with a vote, in majority vote, say
Okay.
we would like to add, we'd take funds from here and put them here, but then, you know.
Okay. And I guess my second question is, do we have an idea how much we'll receive in July?
So the last thing I saw from yesterday said 120,000 was going to go into the account on July 1st. That was from finance, and I have Brian Callahan working on that tomorrow to double check that is the money that's going in. Once it goes in, we will get the new budget report and we'll send that out to everybody, and so we'll know. But I asked him a couple questions tonight about it, so he's gonna check it.
Does that anticipate that we'll be getting additional funds this coming year? In other words, is it
Can I
going to
put
be
my hand up?
120,000 for the year?
Yeah, hold on, Krista. Yep, you're next after Joe. So that was one of my questions. Like, is this a quarterly payment? Is this half? How does it work? Because a lot of times the payments that go out, well, not a lot of times, but the payments that go out to Visit Annapolis and the Arts Council, they're paid in multiple times a year. It's not just one lump sum.
Oh, okay. All right. That's all I needed.
Yeah. So we're going to ask. Okay. Hold on, Krista. Joe's next.
Thanks. I mean, I sort of big picture, I feel like it's worth saying, like, I feel like we're all sort of saying it, but this is pretty transformational money for the work that this commission can do. And that's super exciting. And I think, you know, these questions sort of structurally, I appreciate, like, because we're in a slightly new situation. I would push back on the characterization of us as ever winging it. I think that we are kind of, as stewards of this money, there are certain ways that we review it. We always go through this process. What it does change, I think, is how we can talk to folks that approach us about the types of projects that they can ask money for. You know, like, it's just a whole different ball game that we can really advocate for with folks that we already know or people that we don't know. And I think there is an opportunity for a few kind of planned things sort of that would require RFPs, but we'd have to figure out who the stakeholders were for all of that. Like, you know, there's some big process questions, which I'm kind of excited about because we've never had this opportunity before. So like, I understand some of the anxieties and concerns about the funding itself, but like, I don't want to lose the fact that like, this is a big win. And as a member of the commission, I'm excited to be a steward of that effort. So that's it.
Thank you, Joe. Krissa?
Yes, and Joe, thank you for that. You have stated many things that I was going to bring up as well. Jim, to speak to your point, I've been on the commission for a couple years now, and one of the things that's fabulous about our group is that we do really think things through. Often we do table things for the next meeting if there's some concerns. We've also not just carelessly given out money. We sometimes will say, well, we'll give this amount for now. We might give some money then later at a later date. We might give money. So we're not sort of willy-nilly doing it. It's very thoughtful. We do without allocating to different mediums of art that we are giving funds to. We all know that we are responsible for trying to be fair and trying to make sure that all of the arts are represented, what we do and the monies that we give out. And so we do try to be very fair with it. I do understand your thought of, how are we doing with this? What are we doing with this much money? And that sort of thing. But to speak again to what Joe has said is I do think we are doing an excellent job. And I am too excited that we do have more funds so we can do more. I also think it's great now that when we have these big projects like the Umbrella project that's coming up for next year, certain festivals that are coming up that require a lot of behind the scenes help and support, these types of things, we'll be able to play more of a role in supporting these wonderful events in the city and art in the city. The poetry program that we have, Barbara's been doing an amazing job with that, and other members are supporting her on that as well. So, I wanted to sort of reassure you, Jim, that we have in the past, I think, been very responsible with how we work on the funds, and we kind of keep each other in check as well. If someone's really excited about a project, but someone else is a little bit cautious about it or knows that there's another project that might be coming up in another month or two, we're very good about discussing all that with one another. So I think we're functioning well in that regard.
Thank you, Krissa. Any other open discussion? Okay. Well,
this was me again. It's Chris again. I just wanted to make a mention. I've been super busy with work because we, are trying to open up the museum a bit more in DC. But over the past weekend, there was an SPCA event over at the Clock Tower Plaza, which is in Ward 5. And I know Genevieve and David and I have talked about trying to get something over there that we could do in that space, that, maybe we could bring the Arts Alliance or something in. So I was really excited to see that they had launched that. I hadn't heard about it, but like I said, I just had been kind of nose to the ground with work in the last couple of weeks. So I was not aware that they were doing it until they had actually launched. But I did go over there and saw how they laid everything out and how they had the parking lot was like sectioned off so that the dogs could be there with the van that they have. And then they had a tasting table. They had an auction. They had general tables and information tables. They had food. So, I really felt good that, maybe down the road in the fall or maybe in 2023, that we could maybe do something for Ward 5. So, we've been talking about it, but things have been tabled here and there. So anyway, I just wanted to share that I think it was a success for the SPCA, and I'm hoping maybe we could do some sort of format like that for the arts.
thank you, Krissa. Anybody else? Okay. Before I call a motion to conclude, I want to remind everybody that this Sunday, July 3rd, is the Annapolis Junction Big Band. And then on the 4th of July, the Navy Band will be down at the City Dock performing, and the parade is at 5:30. If anybody wants to come down, and then fireworks are roughly at dusk. So, do I have a motion? Go ahead, Cynthia.
I just want to remind us, we're a group of 7 volunteers, and we really do have to strive for more transparency versus less transparency. And Tammy Hook used to do our minutes, and that enabled the whole commission to participate fully. And I sometimes think that the secretary does have a lot on them. And so I would say, once again, if you look back at the minutes and you see Tammy Hook's, recording of our meetings, I think that provided a little bit more information to the public. We are serving the public. We are administering public funds. And I think we need to be as transparent as possible. But I would say that both the minutes and the agenda have become leaner and leaner and leaner. And, we're just 7 volunteers and working on the committee system, where we have on one committee maybe 2 people, another committee maybe 1 or maybe 3 on another committee. I don't think it really is transparent enough so that just an ordinary person would be able to click on the minutes and really know what the commission is doing. So I think that that might be one solution, to have welcome Tammy Hook back. If that might, be something that would help, and, to have greater participation and more transparency. But you compare the old minutes and agenda, and you look at the, half paragraph that we have at the present time. And I really wonder how the public is really being served by not fully being aware of programs and projects or potential out there. So that's, open for discussion, whatever anyone wants to comment.
Thank you, Cynthia. Before I hand it over to our current secretary to explain why the change has been there, but this is another reason why we do the recorded live meetings, is because there is complete transparency in the discussion, and all anybody has to do is click on it in order to see what has happened during meetings. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, when I did the city's training, when I became an officer of the commission, the city has citywide moved to what are called action minutes. And the only thing that are to be recorded in those minutes are voted items. And so that's a citywide change. And so we are following the protocols established by the city itself. One of the reasons is actually what Genevieve just said, which is the move to action minutes is in part because now that all meetings are recorded, those are essentially a word by word transcript of our entire meeting that is accessible to the public. So the change in format is one that is standardized across all commissions.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Well, I would like to suggest that all communications pertaining to the work of the commission be open and transparent. And so, in other words, that means all emails and all text messages that are pertaining to commission business should be available and transparent. I think in government and open meetings, the more transparency, the better. And I feel that right now, as a 7-member group, I don't think we are really achieving that transparency that is so important. So I do think that emails and texts are needed to be public, pertaining to any business of the commission. I think that there should be some disclaimers and disclosure statements, because, there have been people on the commission who are actually being paid by the mayor. And so therefore they're not actually volunteers. So I think these amounts that they have been paid by the mayor should be disclosed, because I think, we're all acting as volunteers, but if some of our members actually are being paid by a government official, there is such a thing called the Hatch Act. And it doesn't apply to us because we're not federal workers, but we do have federal workers on our commission. So, like I say, I think our goal is to be more transparent and not less. And having disclosure and disclaimer, I think just to keep everybody aware, and so that there can not be any false impressions, that people know upfront that this is happening, that someone is being paid by the mayor on our commission, so there cannot be any false accusations.
This is
Cynthia,
Krista. I just wanted to jump in. Is there a hand up?
Krista, hold on,
anybody?
please.
Okay, go ahead.
Krista, hold on, please. Cynthia, who is a appointed member of our commission that's being paid by the mayor?
I do believe, Genevieve, that you've been paid to be his social and his campaign manager. So all the time that you've actually been on the commission, you've been paid by the mayor to do his social media, but also his campaign management, unless you volunteered to do both of those positions.
So that is actually not accurate. I joined the commission in 2018. I joined the campaign, which I am paid by the campaign funds, not directly from the mayor. I am not an employee of the city. It was a job like everybody else that sits here has a separate job. What I'm paid is actually open to the public. There's a thing called campaign finance reports, and they are there and they're visible and they're posted online, and anybody can see what I earned running his social media and doing the campaign, which is completely outside of arts and public places. And you brought this thing up previously while I was campaign manager, and Ashley told you to contact the city if you had any issues with it and to talk to the ethics. And I don't know if you filed a report. I don't know what came of that, but I was not contacted or told that I'm violating anything. So. Krista.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. So go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to jump in and just say that just kind of a shout out to all the work that's been done with regards to social media for art and public places. I think that you do have a point with regards to making sure that we're getting the word out about what we're doing, what we're supporting, what we're working on. And I do know that our Art and Public Places page is catching on. I know we're getting more and more people following it, commenting on it. There are people, reaching out behind the scenes. And I do believe that is, something we don't talk too much about our social media presence. But I do think that is something that's a real plus, and we're getting better at it. And, again, we all of us, I think most of us, if not all of us, do have other jobs. And sometimes things ebb and flow with regards to our workflow. There's times when I'm a lot busier and then other times when I'm not. And of course, with, COVID, that has hit some of our families. And it's been a very challenging couple of years. Could we do a little better? Could we maybe do a little more promotion, or maybe write a little more blogging about what we've done, or, after our meeting or something like that? Maybe that could be something we could do. And then to speak to what Genevieve said, I do recall being at a meeting when this was brought up before about Genevieve, and Ashley did say that everything was on the up and up. And if you had a concern, and it sounds like you do, definitely reach out to Ashley if you have another concern. But, I can just speak for myself in what I see, that we're growing as a commission. There's been a lot happening in the past couple of years, both for our commission together. We have new members that have come on. We've had some transition, Karma leaving and such. So, I think we ebb and we flow with that. And I think we're really positively moving along. But I am hearing you that you think that maybe we need to have a little more outreach type thing. But again, if only about 11 people are watching us, then maybe not so much. Maybe they're watching us on social media. Maybe they're watching us on maybe some of the other pages that we post on, that we're advertising. We're in the paper also with what we're doing. Some of the local radio talks about us, and some of the local like trailblazers that are out there that have their own little pages and such about the arts. They talk about us as well, and some of the joint projects that we're on. So I feel really good about that. So I just wanted to let you know, Cynthia, that I hear you, but also to hopefully, let you know that I do believe that we are reaching people, and that's getting better and better.
Thank you, Carissa. Cynthia, I'm going to let you finish, but when you're done, I will give you more transparency regarding the social media that I run for Arts and Public Places with our outreach numbers and various information. Go ahead.
No, I'm not talking about our social media for the commission. I'm talking about the social media that you do as a job for the mayor, and that you've been doing.
I am not
since,
employed.
No, hold it. I have the floor.
I am not employed.
I have the floor. I have the floor. Let me finish, please.
No, because I'm not employed. I am not employed by him.
Since 2019, you have been his social media consultant, correct?
December of 2021, I left the campaign. I am no longer employed by him.
No, I'm talking about in the past.
Finish.
I think that disclaimer and disclosure statements, I'm in the medical field and they're routine. I mean, if you have anything to declare, you just get it out in the open. If you're sponsoring a drug and you're a drug rep, well, you get it out in the open. So since 2019, you were paid to do the mayor's social media, and then you joined his campaign as a campaign manager. No big deal, but I think it just needs to be made public so that people know about it. They know the amount that you were earning. And so, we're all volunteers here, but if you did have a salary from the mayor, it just needs to be discussed.
Cynthia, I'm not
actually, this is Krista. Wait, I want to jump in here. Oh, go ahead.
May I make a comment?
Wait,
may I make a comment?
Wait, please. First of all,
Cynthia,
wait, please hold on.
It's water over the dam.
Hold on. I was never employed by the mayor. I was employed by the campaign, the Friends of Gavin Buckley. All of that is public, as I have already said. Their finance reports are always made public. You may go and look and you may see it. It's all on the city page. They post everybody, every elected official that runs during a campaign, everything is posted. I don't know what else to say, Cynthia. I really feel like you're purposely coming at me, and I don't expect anybody else on this commission to divulge their salary. I understand that you may have some ethical concerns regarding the fact that I worked for the mayor's reelection campaign, but it was a job, just like everybody else has a job. And I wouldn't ask anybody else to tell me who their employer is. If there was some sort of ethical violation, the city would have handled it. It would have been brought to us. It would have been made public, and there hasn't been. And if there was any ethical situation with any of you on this board, it would be made apparent to the public, and it would be handled by the city. And we don't have any issues. So I'd like to move on from this because I think we've discussed it.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion that we move on, and that Cynthia, I hear you, but I don't know if I can make a motion for you to have a conversation with Ashley. I wish Ashley was on the conversation that we're having today, but I would encourage you, if you have concerns, to go through her. But these types of things were already discussed at a meeting, and they were a little uncomfortable when they came up the last time. I'm a little uncomfortable with this. You know, I am a government employee, but you know, I think that this has already been discussed. And if you personally have more concerns, I guess, I don't know if it's a motion or not, but I would encourage you, because you do seem concerned, to reach out to Ashley and chat with her about that. But this has all come up at a meeting before. So I'd like to make a motion that we move on and adjourn if no one has any other comments for the
Second that
evening.
motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Jim, was it a new topic or was it on the thing that we just?
No, I just wanted to say that, Cynthia, I think we're talking about something that's history now. And, you know, if she were still currently employed by the mayor, that would be one thing, but she's not. And I know you had some concerns from the past, but that's past. And I think we just really need to move on.
So let's
I don't
move
see
on.
the point. I don't see the point in reflecting on everybody's past history on this commission
There isn't.
and how
As
they were
a
affiliated.
point of order, we actually already voted on that. So
Yeah.
even
So-
this comment
Yeah,
is,
so it's,
Thank you.
it's all done.
Thank you, Joe. We're
It's
done.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and technically we voted to adjourn. That was the
Well,
motion. But
was it adjournment or was it just moving?
Chriso, was that in your?
I think it was moving on.
Okay.
She just wanted to
Okay.
move on because she wants me to give you the insights from her social media. So
Okay.
from the Facebook page, our post outreach has been 10,000. It's 10.7K. So 10,700. Post engagements are 664. New page likes, we've gotten 52 new page likes this month, the last 28 days. These are the analytics for the last 28 days. We have 499 event responses from the events that I posted on there promoting our City Doc concerts. And that is all for Facebook. Let's see, we've got followers too. So we had new page likes, but we also have 60 new followers because there's two options that you can do on Facebook. You don't actually have to friend somebody or like somebody. You can also just follow them and you'll still get their updates. You can also like a page and follow it. Kind of guarantees you that you will have the updates in your timeline more so than just liking a page. Without going into all the analytics of all that. If anybody else has questions about how that works, let me know. I can let you go into it as a side conversation, or if we want to talk about it next time, that's fine. We've had in the last 28 days, new 359 views to the page. And currently we have 1,077 total page likes. And that's what we have for Facebook. Any questions on that? We do not have a Twitter account. I don't think it serves us a purpose to have a Twitter account for AIPPC, but we do have an Instagram. And let me see if I can pull up the data.
Thanks
Did
for
you say
the reporting
Facebook?
on that. That's great to hear.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, Jim, what was that?
Did you say Facebook?
Yes, those were the analytics for Facebook.
Okay.
For Instagram, in the last 7 days, we have reached 93 different accounts. We had 3 accounts engaged, and we have 999 total followers. Currently, we have posted 21 stories, and I can't count all the posts that I've made, but multiple. You are more than welcome to go to the page. It's Art in Public Places Annapolis on Instagram. And please share, like, and let me know if there's any content that you would like to be shared to this that is not getting shared. I'm more than happy to do it. I also, in the beginning, gave everybody administrative rights to the Facebook. So the Facebook, you are more than welcome to add your own content. Add your friends, send out friend requests, share the events. mark that you're going to the events. All of that stuff bumps our analytics up and makes it better. Any questions regarding social media? Okay. Anything else for open discussion? Do we have a motion to adjourn then?
This is David. I make a motion to adjourn.
I have my hand up, Madam Chair.
I just asked if there's anything else for open discussion.
I have my hand raised. You don't see it?
Cynthia.
You don't see it?
Go ahead, Cynthia, you have the floor.
Okay, I just want to say, last week there was a front page article in the Capitol. I know everybody read it, and basically it was saying that the commission did not seek the cooperation or collaboration with the city council. And so once again, I mean, I think for the sake of transparency, we need to be very upfront. We're being next month given a large chunk of money, and we need to be very, very transparent with these public funds. And we need to be making sure that the council is also privy to our to anything that's going on within the commission. And I have to say, I work very, very closely with my alderman, Rob Savage, and we've collaborated in the past. And I do try to do his, whatever I can help with his campaign and whatnot. So I will make that as a disclosure. Thank you.
David?
I like to make a motion that we keep our personal agendas and personal attacks to ourselves, so take that offline. Because to be totally honest, I'm annoyed with this, Cynthia. And if you want to go back, the beauty about being on this particular forum is that we can go back and hear all these comments you've made specifically towards Genevieve. You haven't talked to anybody else except for Genevieve all the last 5 or 6 months. So if you have an issue with Genevieve, then you need to take out with Genevieve and not use this forum for that in your personal agenda. That's getting annoying. And I'm please ask you to stop it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Cynthia?
Once again, an atmosphere of mutual respect should be our goal. So please, they do have a right to their comments and to their opinions. So an atmosphere of mutual respect and professionalism, because we are professionals. But I think that once again, if we get on the front page of the Capitol for not being transparent with the city council, I think that's something we need to discuss.
Okay. Again, that article had misconceptions in it and misinformation. And Sarah Alfrith stated in the article that the city was notified, and they actually knew about it because Dewan came to Sarah after he found out that we were going to get 3%. And Dewan went to Sarah and asked for 3% for affordable housing. So the fact that Ellie says that she didn't know about it is not it. I don't know what happened because everybody else knew about it. And the mayor gave testimony. The county executive gave testimony. The 2 senators that supported the bill gave testimony. I really have no other comment on it except for that it wasn't the case. And they knew it was coming because they discussed it last year with the fiscal year budget in 2021 as well. So, all right, we have a motion on the floor that I would like to continue. David made a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Joe. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye.